Oh, trucks. It's happy trucks. This is gonna be.
Look at this picture. Can we
Yeah.
leave the truck and look at this incredible
It's really
scene?
good.
It
Nice.
is. I mean, we are kind of removing this picturesque forest
True.
at the moment, but beyond
I'm
that,
sure it's all sustainable. No worries. We are
100%.
we're taking these logs to Grangeville, which is in Idaho, which is new, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we bought Idaho today. It looked so
Today
nice
we
in
own
the
Idaho.
trailer video. But
didn't
yeah,
know.
no. As Josh was saying, we've had a bunch of relatively heavy trucks in a row. So we've bought the heavy trailers DLC, so that the heaviness can be behind the truck and not inside it. And I don't like having made that joke. And B, we're gonna do a sort of a nice media trucks this time, and the format is going to be the best.
Whoa! It's actually moving those logs.
Oh my god, this game is
It's becoming
That
so
doesn't-
futuristic.
that doesn't quite count as source engine physics, but we're getting close.
Oh man, that one's moving stuff too.
Whoa! It dropped it dropped the thing into the thing, and it's coming out the thing.
That's
Real-
awesome.
We're making wood chips.
Yeah. Trucks. It's gonna be trucks about our favorite things. We've talked about our favorite things many a time, but I feel like it's been a while, right? Like,
We haven't had a media trucks in a few months,
So
like
we
4 or
figure
5 months
we'll-
now.
Figure we'll update you guys on the status of our boat lists. That is our best of all time lists.
Ooh, the boats and the goats. I mean, why wouldn't we call it a goat list at that point?
I don't know. I wanted something fresh, you know. The
All right,
boats.
fair enough. Boat list. Why don't you kick us off, Josh? And I want to problematize the concept a little bit, as is my want. But let me not do that at the top. Let me first get a sense of how you're going about this, and then we can move from there.
Well, I guess the first thing I want to get out of the way is the old news. I want to just rattle off the things which are definitely still on the list, but which I've talked about on trucks ad nauseum.
Are you guys checking out this pitted logging road where we're like
I know it's
realistically jinking and hurgling up and down?
It's making pretty good noises too, although you guys can't hear it.
Yeah, God. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about how fast you're going, but other than that,
We made it onto the asphalt.
nice.
It's like I'm playing a rally racer game.
So good.
It's so
Oh God,
good.
the left. Oh God.
What? Everything's fine. No worries. Gonna go a little ride, but there's already track marks in that.
Yeah,
dirt.
perfect. This is clearly a problem that other people have encountered.
All right. So the oldies, you know, Autechre, Dark Souls, Jorge Luis Borges, and the video game Receiver. No one needs to hear me talk more about those things. But
Okay, but what categories are they the best of, though? Like, if you're saying those are the best of something, what are the categories associated?
they're just things that are the best.
Okay.
I'm being category agnostic here. I mean, obviously they belong to various categories. I don't know. Autechre, probably you could say that they're my favorite band, but I have other musicians on this list too. I'm just saying these are a few of my favorite things, you know?
Those are a few of your favorite things. Okay, yes, cool. Autechre, Borges, what were the other two? Receiver and
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. I would say that the common theme here is that those are all very fiddly, complicated, and contain labyrinths.
You know, you're right. Although, I mean, yeah, they do. Receiver kind of contains labyrinths. I was gonna say, like, Receiver goes in a straight line. It's not a labyrinth, but then again, the keyboard shit you have to do in that game is a labyrinth of its own. So,
Yeah, none of those things are in any way straightforward. I'll put it that way.
yeah, you know, yeah. Well, here's something that is kind of straightforward. Just to create an exception. The first thing I have here on my list is the album The Sacrificial Code by Kali Malone, which I discovered late last year.
I never even heard of that. Tell me about it.
Observant truckos may remember that in the trucks where I listed a whole bunch of drone albums that I had been listening to, I didn't speak about this one because I discovered it after we recorded that Trucks, but I added it into the text list that I had put up on the screen. And I think it's been the most lasting of those albums. And what it basically is for me, it's a convergence point between weird minimalist contemporary classical and like digital drone music.
All right.
It's acoustic music done on like pipe organs, but done in kind of like an idiom that belongs more to like electronic drone music.
Pipe organs plural?
Yeah, actually,
like
there three of them get involved in the album. They're all solo performances, but the album is divided into 3 sections where she plays on 3 different site-specific organs.
Oh, that seems pretty cool. That's a selling point right there.
I believe they're all in old churches. Maybe one of them is in a studio.
Can you hear the qualitative difference between the 3?
Yes, and in fact, I would say that it seems like, this is where the drone gets in, right? Like, it seems to me that the pieces are composed in such a way to bring out the aural qualities of each organ specifically. They're very minimalistic pieces. I was reading an interview with her, and she talks about how when she's improvising on an organ, she finds herself drawn to just static chords that just hold indefinitely. And so
that is definitely the excellence of the organ is their ability to do that.
Yes, and what she ended up doing for the pieces on the album is like they're rule-based compositions, to kind of keep herself from doing that. So they're very long, very repetitive tracks. They're all canons, actually, and they're just chords that get held for a long time and then give way to other chords. Very, very slow and meditative. It must have taken a great deal of focus to play because like it's impossible to count the rhythm when you just listen to it because the chords get held for such a long time. But you get really familiar with the looping melodies that they're playing and the looping harmonies. And it's so well recorded, like you hear all these gorgeous, glorious overtones and things like that. You can hear like the wind from the pipes. They seem to be mic'd very closely. Stuff like that. So it's.
Would you say there's some inspo there in your first Bandcamp release?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't have the skills to pay the bills when it comes to composing canons, but I was definitely
influenced by the aesthetic.
Oh yes, big time.
And that's I don't know if we've done this on Truck, so let's plug your Bandcamp, Circular Errands on Bandcamp if you would like to sample some of Josh's music.
CircularErrands.bandcamp.com. I've been releasing things, just sort of for the sake of releasing things at this point, just stuff that I decided was done, and I wanted to release it as a 15-minute track. Let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And I'm still like trying to put a proper album together that is a little less, as Borges would put it, a little less torpidly executed. But
yes.
I'm quite happy.
Torpidity is such a hard state of being to escape from.
Yeah. But I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far, and pretty happy that the process continues. And yeah, this Kali Malone album, to bring it back, has been a major source of inspiration for a lot of it.
How do you spell Kali?
I've put it up on the screen already for sure, but it's Kali, Kali, Malone, Malone, the Sacrificial Code.
Well,
which I'm imagining refers to the fact that listening to this album is going to give you tinnitus.
I have to say that's pretty good. You've sold me on checking that out. It seems like that is a piece of music that would have a lot of practical use.
I think it's my favorite album of 2019. I bought it on vinyl and everything.
Woo! There you go. How many vinyl discs is it? Is it
2.
Just one?
2, yeah. But they omit the final track.
Couldn't cram it on there.
Yeah, it's not the track I would have chosen to omit personally, but so it goes.
Right. So, shall I begin then?
Yeah, let's just take turns, huh?
Check this dude overtaking over here.
Yeah, that's
on
cool.
On a curve on a mountain road.
I think I'm tempted to do the same thing.
Wait until you have.
There's my opportunity.
A little bit more visibility. There you go. Oh God.
We're fine. Okay,
as you,
okay, I give up.
right. So I think it speaks somewhat to the difficulty of doing this for me personally, that I talked to you like 3 times about what the format was going to be beforehand, but I still didn't really get it. So what I've done here is, like, I've taken categories of thing and said, all right, so there's sort of a canon of best ofs that we generally think of within this category of thing, but what's a new candidate for me? Because as far as my all-time faves go, I tend to shy away from stuff that everybody knows is good, because I'm like that with a capital L and a capital T and a trademark. So I'm looking at potentially new entries into an established canon here. So let's talk about concert movies, right?
Concert movies. Is it Stop Making Sense?
Well, no, because that's the consensus pick, isn't it?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
But what you offer you'd better have a case for why it's better than Stop Making Sense.
I don't think it is. I don't think that you can. Did we suddenly revert to thinking that there's one best thing? I thought that
no,
you were talking about stuff that was your favorites for a start.
Okay. More better. Is it your favorite? Do you like it more than Stop Making Sense? Tell me what it is. Just tell me what it is.
I mean, but that's my problem with this, is that I like what I like right now. And, Stop Making Sense is good and all, but, I've seen it a whole bunch of times.
Sure.
So what I'm doing is nominating, like, entries into an established, like, area where you could say, well, Stop Making Sense is obviously, like, the go-to #1 concert film ever. But have you tried? And I want to
it's fresher in your mind. It gets you more excited at the moment.
Exactly. I want to mention, before I get to my pick, Laurie Anderson's concert movie, The Home of the Brave, which has within it some moments that are better than anything else in Stop Making Sense, but which, taken as a whole, is a lot of Laurie Anderson. Perhaps more than one sitting really can admit. But the ending sequence with Sharky's Night has been reverberating in my head for the last month or so I thought I'd mention it. But the object of my current, but we're going to go way, way far away from 80s New York art films, which Stop Making Sense and Home of the Brave both are. I want to talk about Vulfpeck. So I've gotten really, really, really into Vulfpeck recently, and then I've had to pull away a little bit because I realized that I'd accidentally kind of Ben Folds myself. They are kind of a college jam band.
Okay.
And I've always been, like, armored against that sort of thing for tribal reasons, but this one snuck by because they're all Jews. And so... or most of them are, and so I've said, oh, they're my people, this can be allowed, and only after the fact did I realize that has a lot of clever college a cappella group jam band energy in it. But regardless, Vulfpeck are the first one entity of this kind that were built entirely on the internet, I will say. You can go back through their YouTube video history, and, like, the first videos by these people are, like, obviously recorded in dorm rooms, back in college. And if you've been following them for a while, or if you do the dive, then watching them eventually get to the point where this film can be filmed is super cool and inspiring, because you eventually get to know who all of them are and their little in-jokes about their personalities. And Vulfpeck are they describe themselves as a funk band. I think that it would probably be... I mean, they definitely do funk, but I think that their major antecedent is really more Motown. And that sort of Detroit soul sound is very big in there, with some funk and also some... But, like, not spaceship Parliament funk, more like Meters, tasteful minimalist funk. So already, like, very muso, and all of these people are, like, really good at playing their instruments, and they're all, like, Jews or white people, or Jews who are white people who are very enamored of black session musicians from the 70s and are, doing their very best to both imitate them and, when possible, to bring them in to collaborate with them on the recordings, which is cute when they manage it. But getting back to the movie, the reason the movie is good is this. One, it is a single continuous shot.
What's the movie called? Is it also just
the
called
movie is
Vulfpeck?
called Vulfpeck Live at Madison Square Garden.
Roger that.
So, things that you should know about this. One, the film is one single shot on an, I think, it might be a Steadicam and it might just be an iPhone, by one person who is on stage for the entire show, and just walks around the stage at all times, focusing on individual performers, sometimes turning out and looking at the audience, but somehow manages to grab these amazing moments from just getting really into the performers' faces occasionally and then turning out to get a sense of how enormous this sold-out Madison Square Garden show is and how unlikely it is that they got there in the first place, because this is a band with no agent, no label, no promotion outside the internet that managed to sell out Madison Square Garden.
Impressive.
Which is very impressive, particularly if you've been watching them grow since they were, some nerdy kids making joke videos in their dorm rooms. So that's great. And the stage setting is great because what they basically how they got famous was posting these live recording videos of their tracks that in the place where they recorded, which tended to be bedrooms in Michigan or what have you, or family rooms. And so they've actually taken and shipped all of the furniture and the carpets and such from that room that they recorded this stuff in and put it all on the stage. So it's a really cozy stage setup with furniture and stuff, and there are 10 different musicians, and sometimes the folks who aren't playing just go and sit on the couch and look out at everything while everything else is still going on, which is a great little vibe.
Sounds pretty delightful.
Yeah, it really is, and they're just all so happy to be there. And the mastermind of this band who's sort of the jack of all trades, master of none. His name is Jack, in fact, Jack Stratton. He brings his mom out, and she leads the entire arena in a meditation practice to sort of get their chakras cleared at one point in the show. And also, because this is sort of a musicians band, the entire audience is full of musicians who are capable of producing a concert G on demand when asked.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, and so and the energy of it is completely different from the other films that I was describing, because where that stuff is challenging and arty, this is nothing but joy.
Yeah.
The performers are having a good time, the audience is having a good time, everybody is just having the maximum amount of good time that they can possibly have. And also, in my personal opinion, the music is great. So check that out. Vulfpeck Live at Madison Square Garden. It is on the internet on YouTube for free. You can watch it now if you want to.
First they made it to Madison Square Garden, and then they made it to on the internet for free.
Well, on the internet for free was their entire business model, for these 10 years. Oh, speaking of business model, Jack Stratton is also the guy who got Spotify to change their the model by which they paid artists, because he released an album called Sleepify, which was silence, and encouraged his fans to play it while they slept. And he used the royalties from that album playing while all their fans were asleep in the night to fund a free tour. He made enough money for this that he was able to put on a tour for the band and not charge.
That is one of the better funding models I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they changed the rules after he did that, but that's the kind of guy that he is. He's I really enjoy
a vagabond.
Yeah. No, the people who have that entrepreneurial instinct and are not assholes are rare but wonderful. And as an artist, you just hope you come across somebody like that, a guy who has the instinct for, you know, publicity and stuff. And like, this is a band that has their own font, actually, too, now. You know, there's all sorts of like fun little jokes and quirks that you can get into when you get into all of the various performers, and you know, it's just a good time. It's a good time. And I realize that I'm like too into it because there is that sort of, you know, glad-handedly nerdiness about it, but I really do enjoy it.
Well, to continue my theme of creating an exception to the last thing you said, or something like that, the next thing on my list was made by an asshole. It's The Witness, actually. I have thought about it, and I think The Witness is truly great.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely... I definitely tried to resist that conclusion at the time because of what a dickhead Jonathan Blow is.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong.
It's rare to find a game that has considered itself so holistically. And weirdly, although, like, there's a paradox in The Witness, right? In that, like, John Blow's presence is so clearly felt in this game. Like, I don't think he even means to, but he seems to mock you every time a puzzle baffles you, right? And
yeah.
every time it does the twist. Like, I'm gonna try to have this conversation without spoiling the way the Witness's ideas progress. But every time it happens, you know? Like, every time the puzzle goes, aha! You didn't think of it this way. It's like, oh, John, you got me again, you know? But, it's been years since I've played The Witness, and its layers of meaning have continued to unravel. And that's pretty rare for a video game. The only other ones that maybe have done it to me in the same way are the other two on my list that I'm not talking about, Dark Souls and Receiver. The Witness, I think, does that. It has a strange amount in common with Receiver. It has like some similar themes, but The Witness is much more elegant than Receiver is in how it expresses them. There's almost, this is the contradiction I was trying to get at earlier, there's almost a humility to the way The Witness doesn't seem to mind whether or not you see what it's trying to say, you know? But if you stick with it, you eventually will, because it is saying it quite eloquently, and it's saying it with every part of itself. And
did you say there's a humility to the way that it doesn't care if you understand what it's trying to say? Because that feels like the opposite to me in a big way. Like, you know, a creator who puts it out there and thinks, well, if you care enough, you know, to get what I'm putting down, you'll put in the effort, seems arrogant rather than humble.
But I see. Compare it to Braid, right? Which is like so preoccupied with spelling out whatever it's trying to say, and then it still isn't even really clear in the end what the fuck it's trying to say with that Oppenheimer shit.
That is true.
And like John Blow went on record after Braid came out saying like no one ever really got Braid, you know, like, and like being sad about that. It feels to me like he grew from that and stopped being the guy who would go on forums to check if anybody understood the clever message that he put in his game, and like being dismayed that nobody was smart enough to figure it out. Like, instead, the Witness understands that the only correct way for it to make its point is to just say it without overly explaining itself, you know? And the way in which that registers to me as a kind of humility is that the game doesn't seem to... Why can't I sleep? The game doesn't seem to feel the need to... Okay, put it this way. Like, the game... In order for the game to work, the game doesn't necessarily need to have fully enlightened you to what the game is trying to say, you know? The game is confident enough to know that it's
Josh, what are you doing?
I'm trying to figure out where this thing can let me sleep, but I can't see anything. So we're flying blind, and I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
The game has a confidence to know that it works whether or not you get it. You see what I mean? That it's making its point soundly enough, whether or not it's fully received by its audience.
Yeah, no, I think that there is something to that. The Witness is like... The Witness is beautiful on its own in a way that few games are, you know?
Yeah.
In addition to being beautiful in the way that you interact with it. And while... while it all seems like... What is happening?
I'm rescuing myself.
Yeah.
Oops, that's not the button to summon the truck. That's not the button to summon the truck. That's not the button to summon the truck. There. Truck summon.
Okay. Cool. And you were on the ground even, which is nice.
I'm supposed to be able to sleep somewhere around here, but it doesn't really work. So I guess we'll just chalk that up as wasted time.
Fun. Unfortunate.
Oh,
there you go.
We did it. Now I can fucking see.
It's noon. So yeah, the Witness is to some degree about a creator that can't be satisfied with the transmission of his important deep thoughts.
Yeah.
Which, might underscore the impression that one might get that Jean Blow is a hilariously self-involved pain in the ass, and that there might not be much to glean from this game as a result. But it is one of those kind of annoying cases where the sheer quality of the product indicates that there is something worthwhile going on in there.
It is a quality.
Care to excavate it.
It is a quality which is common in great art, that it reveals the personality of the creator without directly putting him in it. Like,
yeah.
Not to say that all great art must be this way, but it's natural that John Blow would osmode into this thing, and just because John Blow strikes us as a little distasteful a lot of the time, doesn't necessarily mean that the way in which the game does that is bad. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Yes. So this definitely is another one to go in your labyrinths column.
Yeah,
this game is labyrinthine as fuck.
It's literally about them in a way.
Yep. All right. So we're ready to move on from that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm gonna thematically hop to an entry into best platformers of all time.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't think that I ever really gave it its due here, and that is Celeste.
Celeste is really good, yeah.
Celeste is so good, and it's also good in the kind of way where I didn't realize how good it was while I was playing it. What it took for me to really appreciate how good Celeste is was watching a streamer who thought that she couldn't do platforming play it. Like somebody, and who was in fact quite bad at platforming at the beginning of the game. Watching the game work as intended to that extent, because the game is about overcoming self-doubt and self-hatred and finding confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And part of the ludonarrative harmony of the game is that if you start out as somebody who isn't particularly comfortable with a 2D platformer, it will bring you along, and the sheer granularity of the difficulty settings is extremely useful with this. To this day, it has the best assistive settings of any game that I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. Just everything goes in a straight line toward being like toward opening the question, one of the most valuable questions in a player's head that you can have somebody ask is, well, wait a minute, what if I actually can do this thing that I didn't think that I could do? Which is such a gift, to take that feeling away from a game. And everything in the game is also just so well designed. from the art style to the music, which is like subtle but so good. Like it's the music in that game is the kind of good where you have to stop and think about it to realize all of the incredibly clever things that it's doing, just because it also functions so well as a game soundtrack. Like the things it does with leitmotifs and building stuff and building tension when necessary, it's just delightful.
It's tasty.
Yeah. And you can say that the plot and the dialogue is kind of cutesy and kind of simplistic and straightforward, but that's sort of exactly what it needs to be, you know.
Yeah, it serves
Celeste is very much making a very specific point. Oh dear. Okay, cool. This works. That's a very strange thing to be.
I see no hope, you know, if I go that way.
Yeah, no, that's an odd obstacle to have an ambulance stopped in the middle of a highway. Something awful appears to be happening there.
Yeah.
But regardless. So Celeste passed me. Celeste is really easy, like not in the sense of being easy to play. It's actually, if you want it to be, it's incredibly challenging.
It's easy to interpret.
It's really easy to interpret what's going on, and it's not a hard read, put it that way. In contrast to the stuff that we've been talking about here, where part of the joy in it is how difficult it is to read.
Yeah.
And as such, I don't think that I gave it the credit that it deserved at the time when I first played it. But
it's just crazy effective.
I think that in its simplicity, it can be extremely powerful, and so I want to big up Celeste. And even if you don't think you can play that type of game or are interested in playing that type of game, it's worth playing because it's because of what I mentioned before, both in terms of its assistive stuff and in the way that the platforming doesn't really end up being the point, even though the platforming itself is super great.
The next thing on my list is a platformer too, sort of.
Oh, lay it on me.
I think that one of the best media properties of all time is Mario.
Yeah, I have Mario on my list too.
Hell yeah. Just Mario as, like, Mario in general, or a specific Mario game? Because mine is just Mario in general.
No, I didn't have a specific. I wanted to shout out, like, the universe of Mario Maker content because of how much time I've spent with it recently. But let's hear about your Mario feelings, and I'll pitch in as needed.
Mario is like A, the perfect video game character, and B, the perfect like corporate mascot, which is not like something that I'm usually given to have feelings about, but it's like it's not super easy to put my finger on everything that makes him work. And that's because, really, in so many ways as a character, he makes absolutely no sense, right? This is something which is famously true of Mario, is like, why is he an Italian plumber? Why do mushrooms make him bigger? Why do stars make him invincible? Why are his enemies turtles? But all of these things, like, have such a universality to them at this point, which has been taught to us by the game's pure ubiquity, that it's just like, you can put a Mario game in front of someone who's never played a video game before, and they'll probably know when the mushroom appears that they want it because it makes them bigger, you know? And there's something very powerful about that, I think. He becomes a character who exists in a world of pure archetypes. Like, there isn't really a story that makes that setting make sense. Like, there's no... There are some Mario games with world building, right? Like Paper Mario and stuff, but for the most part, the world building exists where it exists to justify this weird set of symbols that we all just sort of accept. So, like, it's archetypal, but also these archetypes bear no resemblance to, like, real psychological Jungian archetypes. They're just the archetypes that Mario has and operates by.
The reason for this, of course, as you alluded to this, but I just want to make it explicit, is that Mario was not created. Mario was essentially the result of a bunch of translation errors, almost. Mario sort of emerged from, like, Mario has a mustache because they didn't have very many pixels,
right?
And you couldn't really make a face with the number of pixels they have, but you could make a mustache. And then that goes from Nintendo of Japan to Nintendo of America, where somebody looks at the tiny pixel mustache and thinks, well, clearly this character that has been created by a Japanese pixel artist out of necessity is Italian because it has a mustache.
Yes. That's how it is.
And then everything just sort of span out from there.
Yeah.
What are we going to call his brother? Well, Luigi. Why not? And it was like, no Italians involved in this, but it was something like it reminded somebody of his like old cousin or landlord, or I don't even remember what the details are. But
Mario is the subconscious speaking.
Yeah, no, there's no one cultural milieu from which the Mario idea sprang. The whole thing happened between cultural milieus, which is why it is both so bizarre and so universal. Hey, put that on a cupcake.
And this also serves really well to like give the video games a certain special sauce, right? Like I think this particularly rings true with stuff like Mario Galaxy, where all like this bizarre symbol language is taken to a literally cosmic level. And I think to me it just creates a very strong sense that like this whole world exists purely for Mario to enjoy it. And even though like there's presumably some high stakes to what he's doing here, and like if he fails it'll be bad, like he's still having a blast because he lives in a world which is there for him to conquer, really. Like and you could problematize that if you wanted to, but I
mean, the fact that we've seen that every single entity in Mario is sentient and can speak, and he slaughters them all mercilessly anyway.
There's a weird amount of like killing newborns in Galaxy. There's like this strange running theme in the bosses. They're all newborns. I don't know what that's about. But the point is, like, Mario becomes like a brilliant expression of like joyous, right?
Yeah. I think that also is reflected in the way that, every Mario game introduces a new cast of supporting characters to build around Mario's centrality, and in 90% of cases those supporting characters immediately fall away.
Yeah.
And like canon is not a thing across Mario games at all. To the extent that like some of the Paper Mario games make things really kind of dystopian and weird, and like dark, and then that just vanishes, and but
he withstands that too, right? Like
exactly,
it all fits.
Nothing can stick to him.
Yeah.
He's just the Mario, and so Mario as a universal symbol, who is also at the same time mired in these like occasionally really distressing ethnic stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why it's cool that he sounds like that. That seems really offensive when you sort of step back a second.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of an Italian saying that they are offended by Mario. They're probably out there. They would be justified in
it would be, though.
But it's still, like, it's Mario. Who cares,
Yeah,
I'm sorry
Mario.
If you really do feel strongly.
He's not
about
really
Mario
Italian. He's from cartoon Italy,
No, he's from the Mushroom Kingdom.
He's not from the Mushroom Kingdom. I mean, well,
where else is he from? Is he from Italy? Is like the Mushroom Kingdom a neighboring state of Italy?
Well, if we go back to the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s, he's from Brooklyn, and he got sucked down a toilet, and so forth. And sometimes he's in prehistoric times, and sometimes he's Captain Lou Albano, and like he's just the Mario. Everything else about it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mario's way better than Zelda.
But Zelda's about elves. Fuck elves.
Yeah.
You know what I think about that.
No one needs elves.
Right,
you want to segue into your particular Mario thing?
Nah. I think that covers it. I don't think I need to say anything else. So let's see. Next category for me would be deconstructions of fairy tales,
yes.
which
One
is
of the great
course
categories.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's a big favorite around my household. Everybody knows what a big part Utena plays in my life, which is, a big one in this area. And you think about stuff like, Into the Woods, if you want to get a little bit more esoteric about it, or Wicked if you want to get incredibly mainstream about it.
What's the thing that's actually on your list?
Well, I have two entries into this that I've either encountered or re-encountered recently. I want to put in a good word for The Last Unicorn. You ever read The Last Unicorn, Josh?
No, I don't. I barely know what that is.
So The Last Unicorn is a book that most people are aware of because it was made into a children's movie, an animated children's movie in the 80s. And it squarely belongs in the category of books that should definitely not have been made into children's movies. It's in that category of weird animated kids movies from the 80s, which are not for children, and yet somehow were made. But the original book is definitely for grown-ups and is mostly about aging. And it is about a wizard named Schmendrick, and the author is Jewish, yes, who is incredibly bad at being a wizard and has been sort of cursed never to grow up until he actually figures out his deal. And a unicorn who is the last of her kind, but who cannot age. And who cannot age, therefore, because she's immortal. And then and about a king who is basically just the living embodiment of depression and has stolen all of the unicorns in the world because it's the only thing that makes him even remotely happy to look at. And the way that these things... And the way that these characters interact with each other. And it's all done in a sort of almost shticky way. There's a lot of jokes which would have been pop culture references in the 70s, which is when this was written. But when you get beyond that, it's part of a thing that a category of thing that I really value. Which is sort of coming-of-age narratives that are expressly designed for adults who are having trouble figuring their deal out. Like, as opposed to continuing to go back to children's books about, coming-of-age, like your Narnia books or what have you, or your hero's journeys, which are all about 15-year-olds, essentially. It's nice to have stories that are like, well, we don't come of age at 15 anyway in society these days, and some of us don't come of age until way later than that, for a lot of different reasons, from mental health to trauma to sexual identity and orientation or what have you. So let's talk about books that are about figuring your deal out after your journey to the castle to find the Grail. And The Last Unicorn is definitely that, and it's also very funny, and just an easy read, and I would recommend it to just about anybody.
Nice.
But the other one in that category that I read recently, which is like which is very explicitly a response to the sort of Narnia tropes, is actually by Ursula Le Guin.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called The Beginning Place. And this is basically... The Beginning Place is basically just a short novel where it's like, okay, so you've made your way into the magical land. What are they going to do with you? Why are you here? Do you want to stay here? Is this actually any of your business? Do they... how does your culture and this culture interact?
Interesting. I wonder if this will be in the novellas collection I have from her.
It's a real treat, and like the main character is a sort of pudgy, affable dude who can't get out from under his mother's shadow, and I felt it. I felt this book very much. So that's another good one if you were into the deconstructed fairy tale idea, but and want a take that is considerably less stupid than most. Like, you had The Golden Compass, which was, Philip Pullman's attempt to fix Narnia, but he also fucked up. This is a good attempt to fix Narnia, and a successful one, and it's about grown-ups. So nice. I recommend it.
I feel we should give Adventure Time a quick shout out in this category. It's not on my list, but not because it's not one of the boats.
I would say it's the best cartoon of all time, the best TV cartoon of all time.
Yeah.
But I would also say that Adventure Time is less about deconstructing like fairy tale tropes, even though it sort of maybe was that for its first season, and more about
it's
psychedelic exploration.
Yeah.
But
anyway, something else.
It's your turn, I believe.
Yes. I'm going to talk about a filmmaker named Yasuhiro Ozu.
Generally one of the considered to be one of the top 10 filmmakers of all time, and those old those old list makers lists.
Yeah, for sure.
If you would read these lists, you would think that Japan had 2 filmmakers, and it's him and Kurosawa.
Yep, him and Kurosawa. And they're very different too. Those two are very distinct from one another. Ozu, if you haven't, have you seen any of his movies personally?
Yes.
Can you remember which ones? They all have like similar haiku-esque titles.
There was the one about the old man.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's the one about the daughter. There's the one about the family, and there's the one about the family, and there's the one about the family. They're all about families. He likes these very mundane domestic dramas where the plot kind of doesn't really kick in until maybe halfway through the movie, and you kind of learn about these characters' preoccupations and areas of growth through their social context. Right? It's social realism done in a way that I think puts shame to most of the American authors who made social realism like a big genre, a big like literary concern.
Reasonable.
And he has this very special way of shooting spaces. He has a very idiosyncratic visual language to his movies that he uses to great effect. Each room in the house will have 1 or 2 camera angles that you always see it from, and there'll generally be a character whose POV, a character or two maybe, whose POV you're a little bit closer to, and sometimes it shifts, but you through the way he shoots these places, you kind of begin to relate to the houses in the same way that the characters do, and he uses this to create the most bewildering emotional climaxes that just sneak up on you. Like one plot beat from one of his movies, this is an example I like to use to illustrate this, is the whole problem in the movie Equinox Flower is that the father is refusing to give his blessing to the daughter's upcoming marriage because she's chosen who to marry herself instead of marrying someone that the family arranged for her to marry, right? These themes of the older generation and the younger generation in post-war Japan are a big thing in all of these movies. And what happens is the wife gets a phone call actually from the husband who is off screen, and you don't even hear him speak, but she just gets the good news from him that he's decided to attend and bless the wedding after all. And what happens is the mother just rushes upstairs where the daughter lives, and you see a bunch of rooms that you've never seen before because the mother doesn't usually have cause to go visit her daughter's room, right? But now she's overcome with joy, so she runs upstairs and you see a whole bunch of new camera angles all in a row, right? You see the stairway, you see the upstairs hallway, and then you see the daughter's room, all for the first time. And it makes this moment feel huge in a way that it kind of already would, because it's a big emotional beat, but you actually feel the way it disrupts the normal flow of this relatively calm home life,
Sure.
And that's a big thing. Do we want to create some extra time?
I was thinking about that. I've got a few more things to talk about. Do we want to do a mini? Oh, or we could do another mini truck, or we could just fly through Idaho for a while. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can just fly through Idaho for a while. Let me remember how to turn off all these UI elements. There we go.
Perfect. That sounds like an excellent time. Let's soar through the
I might try
admittedly
to find
uninspiring
We passed some good stuff.
Idaho is pretty uninspiring in real life.
But I'm enjoying the kind of mundane realism. You know, speaking of Ozu, there's something pretty believable about all this. If I fly this way, things will get surreal pretty fast, I'm guessing.
They worked hard on this. That's pretty interesting. See, like, dear.
This is what you're supposed to see. Is there actually a place you can go where you can see that house's rooftop? I guess a little bit. You can actually see. It looks almost convincingly like there would be a driveway there. You know, I mean, you're seeing this in 480p right now, so you can barely even comprehend what I'm talking about. Anyway, don't let me distract you. I'm gonna play cameraman while you talk about the next thing on your list.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. I wanted to give a shout out to Eartha Kitt. I'm in the middle of reading Eartha Kitt's biography right now, which is very difficult to come by. But to start with, do you know who Eartha Kitt is, Josh?
Not really.
Okay, so Eartha Kitt is a singer and actor, who I think is probably best known to the internet now as Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove, Pull the Lever Kronk, which happened way, way late in her life. But you may also know her as Catwoman from the original Batman TV show, the campy one. If you hear Santa Baby on the radio at Christmas time, it's probably going to be her singing it.
Oh yeah.
But these are all like teeny tiny parts of a really fascinating career. Eartha Kitt was born. She was the child of a white doctor who like skedaddled immediately. She never knew her father, and a black maid in segregation times, and like grew up as one of umpteen wow and grew up as one of umpteen children, barefoot in the middle of in the South, and ended up as a woman who Orson Welles called the most fascinating woman in the world. She was like an international sex symbol.
Oh.
And she's not like pretty. But she ended up being like the toast of Europe. She spoke like 4 languages and sang in a bunch more. And was for a while one of the most famous people in the entire world. And is like also just clearly incredibly talented both as an actor and as a singer, but is essentially been forgotten beyond these little bits of pop cultural ephemera that I talked about before, in large part because in the 70s she committed the crime of being rude to Lady Bird Johnson.
Oh no.
During the this is like during the civil rights movement, and sort of Eartha and Lady Bird had a sort of White House summit, and the way that she talked to this white woman was sufficiently unacceptable that the CIA essentially blackballed her from all entertainment after that.
Good Lord.
And so normal it's incredibly difficult to even find writing about her now. Like the one biography that was written not by her, because she wrote a bunch of autobiographies, which are, mixtures of fact and fiction. It's written by this British guy, and it's not even in print anymore. And part of the reason why she's not generally considered part of the canon of like the great, black singers is that she didn't sing black music. She sang like the pop music of her time, which was like a lot of, you think of something like Santa Baby is a lot of like sort of these very culturally appropriative 50s tunes. She sang a lot of like, oh hey, I'm doing a pretend Turkish number now. I'm doing a pretend Japanese number. I'm doing a pretend, she sang in French a lot, calypso, show tunes kind of stuff. And so she was in that way not really a part of the black cultural narrative. either, so she doesn't get memorialized in that respect. But she was also... Whoa.
I wonder if that'll load in if I get closer. No, I guess that's void. Nope. Oh,
But-
there it is.
But she was also like this magnetic, undeniable talent, which if you start digging into her stuff becomes really clear really quickly. And so I want to suggest that people check out Eartha Kitt if you don't know about her or don't know anything beyond her telling Kronk to pull the lever.
Might just do that.
So there's that. How much more of this do we want to do? I've got a couple more things, but
I got a couple more things too, but I can. Is Russian Ark on yours? Out of curiosity, it's on mine.
No, I mean, have we talked about? I feel like I've talked about Russian Ark on here before when we talked movies, but feel free to do it.
Just real quick, you can find it now. You might have to. I think there's one of those subscription services has it. It's probably some kind of Amazon subsidiary, unfortunately, but you can find it now in 1080p, and it's a perfect movie, as long as it being nationalistic a little bit for a different country than America doesn't bother you too much.
Yeah, you got to have some time on your hands also. But
it's not that long. It's like 90 minutes.
Feels longer.
It might feel longer, but it passes like a beautiful dream.
It is still one of my top 5 movies of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I co-sign that. You want to take a slow walk through time and space in a museum.
Yeah, it's like a museum tour and a bit of historical fiction, but it's not. You see a bunch of different historical figures in it, but not knowing about them doesn't really hurt because you're really just seeing like small, intimate, personal moments from their lives.
And the second movie that we have mentioned here that is filmed in one single unbroken shot, but in a much, much more impressive and technologically difficult way.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Let me, if we're doing quick shout-outs, in the category of best wrestling matches to introduce people to pro wrestling with, can I recommend Minami Toyota versus Aja Kong at Big Egg Wrestling Universe?
Okay, nice.
Which is also available on YouTube and is great for this purpose for 2 reasons. One of which is that these are 2 of the best pro wrestlers ever to live. One of which is that it's a really easy story to follow because there's one giant woman who just, beats the shit out of one smaller but brave woman. And also because you get to hear Aja Kong's theme song, which is one of the best wrestling theme songs ever. And it's a show called Big Egg Wrestling Universe, which was 10 hours long and featured entirely women wrestling in the Tokyo Dome in Japan. And how can you get better than that?
Yeah,
so there we go. I think that I'm content to leave it there. Having mentioned
I'm gonna do one more.
All right, go for it.
The painter Agnes Martin.
Ooh.
I've always been fond of the abstract expressionists. Agnes Martin goes about this in a very minimalistic way. Her paintings there's one up on my wall right now which I'm looking at. Pretty much you can sum up all of her paintings almost by she etched a grid into the canvas and there are subtle variations of pigment. I have yet to be able to explain what's so affecting about them. You can hear what she says about her paintings. There's a favorite quotes like that she paints with her back to the world, stuff like that. She seems to paint a lot of her paintings have titles like Little Sister or like Flower, as if she's painting the emotional impressions that these things leave her with, but they're so spare and so delicate. And yet, when you kind of become familiar with her visual vocabulary, they just seem to sing. And there's something really special about that. If you can find one, you can't right now. And looking at them on the internet isn't the same, sadly. This is unusually, this is always true of paintings, but it's particularly true of these paintings. But the Guggenheim usually has some on display, and the Guggenheim is another thing on my list. That's my favorite museum these days.
Can we shout out Hazel's Twitter, where she has been taking her followers on a adventure that includes the what was it, the inverse Guggenheim or something like that?
Oh yeah,
it's been real good.
One of the greatest Twitters of all time, Hazel's.
Hazel, Hazel's Twitter is at Soma is Batman, if you would like a treat. But anywho, hey, there we go. I think I'm going to try to sum this up as we sail along below the world. With one exception where we both met in the middle, I think it has been interesting to note that all of your nominations were very thinky, very abstract, and very maze-like, and mine tended to be very poppy and very straightforward. But we both like Mario. Which everybody likes Mario.
Everybody likes Mario. I'm loving
Everybody loves Mario.
I'm loving this inverted mountain.
Yeah, I wonder what goes on in Nega, Idaho down here.
Beautiful place. Anyway,
gosh, it is
return
lovely.
to the truck. I'm impressed that it just loaded the surroundings. Oh no, it didn't. I was going to say it loaded the surroundings of the truck immediately, but looked good out the cockpit. But turn around and anyway, turn back my UI on and press. I assume.
Surely.
Oh wait, I have to press T, right, and then enter. Come on, give me the prompt. There we go.
Hey, nice. All right. Well, that was a good truck.
Yeah.
Good long meander through some nifty things. Cheer yourselves up. I've been worrying myself into a blather over how the world is, and sometimes escapism is actually necessary to keep yourself functional, because keeping yourself functional in hard times is the most important thing.
Yeah, I recommend finding the thing on this list that was the most different from the media that you have been consuming lately, because God knows we've all been consuming so much media. But, mix it up. There's so many different things.
And also Trucks continues to say fuck the police.
Fuck the police.
And fuck the military police, particularly.
Going to protests turns out to be pretty safe, pandemic-wise, so...
Yeah, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to get shot in the head by a unidentified dude in military uniform and almost die.
Yeah.
So, sorry to bring it down right at the end there, but use these. Check out these media. They will educate, inform, and entertain.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.